Hey everyone, God bless you, and thanks a lot for tuning in to Tech Tuesday. I hope that you have been profiting by my reflections on technology and the impact of technology on our lives, that which is obvious and also that which is very authentically altering us, but not so obvious. We've been focusing in some previous reflections about the fact that technology's form itself, not just its usage, has tremendous value. It's value laden itself, the actual form. We've talked about the impact of books. We've talked about the impact of cars. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the impact of screens, beginning with the television and then the computer and then the smartphone, focusing on what's in common between the three, and that is the medium of the screen and the visual and the image, and how that is impacting us apart from what's being watched. That's a whole nother subject and a very important one. But we're talking about the actual form. The impact of the screen is very different than the impact of the book. There are certain positives that come to us that deeply attract the human person to the use of screens. Let me read just a few positives that I've noted down. The incredibly beautiful imagery. I'll tell you, one of the things I love about my computer is that I have a majestic image of Big Sur and the Central California coastline that I get to see. And it's just magnificent. The image is just beautiful. And I'm sure previous generations, since the invention of the camera at the end of the 19th century, could hardly believe that we'd be able to produce such a sharp, magnificent image as we're being able to produce today. This is one of the benefits of screens. The presentation of exteriors, the intimacy that's involved, the immediate emotional response that is elicited through the use of screens and videos, the power of short narratives, the individual experience. All of these things are clearly positives that attract people to the screen technology. But with those positives, as in every technology, there's also a host of negatives, because you remember from our reflections on Plato and his commentary on technology, there's always a give and take. Every new technology offers its benefits, but also has its negatives. And let me mention a few negatives that come with screen technology. Screen technology and the videos that we watch are weak on developed thought in general. There's a few ways to get around this through more long-form discussion, but most people don't want to watch long form. It's a great use of screen technology to be able to listen to longer, more detailed interactions like Joe Rogan's podcast, Jordan Peterson's podcast, these where there's a give and take and you have more of a classroom experience. But that's a tiny percentage of the use of screen technology. Most is very short, and the result of that is weakness in developed thought, weakness in logic, a weakness in objectivity, certainly a huge downplay of history. A weakness is the difficulty to be detached. When we're watching something, we're so emotionally involved. There's no collegial experience, no interchange, and screens also have a tremendously addictive potentiality, far more than books do. And the result of that has been an eruption of pathologies since 2012, when the smartphone really became to permeate our society. And we're still documenting that, and lots of research is being done on that. But the pathologies are clear: the mental illness, the depression, the sense of alienation, all sorts of terrible negatives that come with the use, the immersion that our society has experienced with regards to screens. And all of this has resulted in some very concrete unfortunates. One is the explosion of illiteracy. Who would think? But that is exactly what's happened. As the smartphone has become ubiquitous, we haven't become smart, we've become stupid. And this is measured in many, many ways. Our smartphones are not helping us to be knowledgeable people. Also, the incredible rise of acrimony and incivility. Because of the weaknesses of this short-form visual medium, People think that after watching a few videos, they know what they're talking about. They aren't engaged in the give and take of a typical collegial experience, a typical educational experience where you might suggest something and then you would hear back an alternative opinion and you'd be able to hone your thoughts, so to speak. And so people watch a few videos and all of a sudden they're experts and they're certain that the earth is flat. And anybody else who disagrees have to clearly be an idiot or have ill intentions. And this is the reason that this form of technology is generating so much incivility. Several years ago, I think it was in 2019, Dr. Jordan Peterson came here to our town in Riverside and gave a wonderful presentation. It's when he had just published his 12 Rules for Life, and he was making his first kind of world tour. We packed out our historic Fox Theater here in downtown. And after his talk was over and we stayed for the Q&A afterwards, he was asked a question about why there's such a rise in contentiousness and acrimony in our culture, and especially on Twitter. And he said that we should be very sympathetic. I thought his response was amazing. He said we should be very sympathetic with people who are acting this way because it's virtually impossible not to become acrimonious because the structure of Twitter itself promotes acrimony. I thought it was an extremely insightful comment. The structure itself, which of all the tech platforms, magnifies these weaknesses that I'm describing that are essential in screen life at all. Everything has to be so short. The idea that you need to comment, that your opinion is so important, and that you need to say it in a few words. The very structure itself promotes this kind of thing. It's very, very bad for sinners. So we've moved from this incredible paradigm shift from a book monopoly that has gone on for hundreds and hundreds of years and has fashioned a whole intellectual culture, a culture that involves a faculty, that involves a professor-student relationship, that involves revision and argument and reconsideration and fine-tuning. All of that's going away. All of that is on its way out, and a lot of it's already gone. And that book monopoly is being replaced by a new research paradigm, a new learning paradigm. It's the paradigm of tech monopolies as portals to information, the so-called information revolution. Just think about what libraries are today. Libraries which have been so precious in all classical Western civilizations for so long, today are basically empty. And people who go to libraries usually don't go to libraries anymore for books. They go to rent digital devices or to rent movies or to use the computers that are at the library. That's certainly the case here in my town, in Riverside. I've spent decades here homeschooling my children and now my grandchildren, helping with my grandchildren. And we used to go to the library all the time. We went there to read. We went there to check books out. We went there to interact with programs that were going on in the library. And we've just built a new library here in downtown Riverside. And it's a beautiful, large structure, but it doesn't have that many books. It's not about books anymore, sadly. The result is that we have the rise of a new tech monopoly and the tech titans, these new masters of industry. Some may call them the new robber barons. I think that's a decent description. Very few people control now the flow of information, and as a result, they control the narratives. They control the interests of people by the very form of the presentation of the tech platforms. One of the ways that you see this is the reality that our culture could be so interested in the doings of a single man, and I'm referring to the President of the United States, whoever he is, since the rise of the screen monopoly. We have been driven by the actual structure of tech itself to be so focused upon what a president is doing. And this, I can't emphasize enough, is so un-American. The thought that American citizens would spend so much time watching and thinking and commenting upon what is done by one man is so un-American. It's so against the idea of self-government and this obsession with what our president, whoever he is, in the last 11 years since the tech monopolies we've been complete screen addicts. This is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. It's not the way that America has been fashioned and formed in the past, and we have to end it. We have to stop it. The technocrats have to be resisted. So those are just a few thoughts about screens. I could, of course, talk about a lot more forms of technology and the impact to prove that the medium itself is the message. Of course, the medium has its own messages, but the medium itself is the message. And this is my important emphases in these last few talks that I want you to get. I didn't talk so much about other forms like the clock. We could be talking about the clock. Of course, the way that we keep time, the invention of the clock was a Christian invention. It was an invention that was honed by our monks. And the first clocks, which were established by our monasteries, were designed to help regulate the monastic hours, the canonical prayer hours. It was a way to let us know when matins was and when liturgy was and when first, third, sixth, and ninth hour were, when vespers were. This ordering of time through the use of the clock was very, very important. And the structure itself helped people to pray and help keep God in their minds. Emperor Charles V in 1370 took the clock and established the royal palace clock as the normative clock in the empire, in the Holy Roman Empire, and asked his citizens to regulate their industrial, their commercial lives by his clock. And his clock didn't toll according to the hours of the church. His clock tolled on the hour. And since that time, we've had a much different use for timepieces and for the clock. I also could talk with you about the technology of culinary presentation. There are some fascinating studies that have been done to show the impact of the presentation of food. If you're trying to help your children eat healthy, if you want them, for instance, to eat greens and to eat salad, how you present the salad, whether you present it and you place the salad in front of them or whether you make it on a buffet and let them choose, will have everything to do with whether they obtain the salad and eat it. You have a much higher chance of them doing that if you present the salad in front of them. You put it in front of them. They'll always find the ice cream, but if you want them to eat the salad, the form of the presentation of your culinary experiment is very important. We could also talk about the technology of presenting to employees a retirement contribution. So in employee retirement contributions, we've discovered that the presentation, the form of the presentation of the retirement plan is exceedingly important. If you want your employees to be serious about saving for retirement, then you need to establish a retirement plan in which they are, by definition, in it. And their freedom can be expressed by opting out of the retirement contribution plan. If you reverse that form of presentation and you require your employee to opt in to their employee retirement plan, a much, much smaller percentage of employees are going to actually responsibly save for retirement. So once again, the emphasis is on the form because the form has a tremendous impact on our lives. The medium is the message. Thanks a lot for tuning in to this reflection on screen life, and please pray for us and more to come. God be with you.